Hello everyone! We continue with our journey of ranking all Harry Potter games with the help of my Statocritic scoring system, the details of which can be found in the pinned comment. In this video, we take a look at all titles released in 2002. They were based on Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, a story about acceptance, how it's okay to be different and that you shouldn't be shunned for it nor deprived from your right to live, and how personal choices matter and define who you become. Sure sounds like there are people who could take some lessons from that tale, doesn't it? Now, due to the success of previous Harry Potter games, Electronic Arts went even more all out with Chamber of Secrets, so there's quite a lot to unpack, including the biggest question: have the sequels improved upon the previous outings? This version, developed by No Wonder, is a direct continuation of their PC Philosopher's Stone title, and it truly shows the power of iterative process in games. It is hands down better in absolutely every way, and I mean it, everything has been improved. Basic movement? Full comfortable 360 degrees motion with strafing. Jumping and mid-jump grabs? No long animations and no weird collision detections. Spellcasting, targeting is comfortable and casting works properly every time. Stealth? Okay, technically it's sort of even worse, but there is only one small stealth segment in the game and it's enough to just run past everyone, so it never poses a problem and therefore overall an improvement. Quidditch? It's now on rails, but in turn has a better sense of speed, and honestly it's just more engaging, with a sort of boss battle against Draco at the end of the tournament. Speaking of actual bosses, their designs lack depth, but they're still fine, not to mention more interesting than the Philosopher's Stone ones. And though there's still no way to lose the House Cup, at the end Gryffindor always wins, House points do matter now, as their amount will decide if you or Draco go into the Magic Bean bonus room at various thresholds. And speaking of beans, not only are they used to buy potion ingredients, but also students will sell any wizard cards you've missed in locations that are visited only once. So there is no way to permanently miss a collectible. Plus, searching for secrets is so much more enjoyable this time around. While the game still has a mechanical limitation of having one spell being automatically assigned to one object, level design takes that into consideration and is much more elaborate, not only with its main paths, but also secrets that require actual thinking. For example, there is a location where to reach a secret you need to make sure to not cut all the ropes. Another example is a spot where to go further in the level you need to solve a puzzle one way, but alternative solutions open up secret locations. These levels are connected together through a Hogwarts hub, where more secrets can also be uncovered as you progress. You will alternate between spell lessons and tasks that tackle the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets. In between, you can participate in various side activities like Quidditch that I mentioned before, a duel and club competition, and completing your wizard card collection to unlock the special challenge mission. The final level of the game appropriately tests everything you have learned throughout the second school year at Hogwarts. So this whole structure is very fitting for a Harry Potter game, but more than that, the story told within has actually proper setup, progression and resolution. There are some weird things. Dobby appears at the beginning of the game never to be seen again. Ron tells they've missed Hogwarts Express literally minutes after all students were in the same bookshop as Harry. It's never revealed that Ron's wand got broken, and yet that plays a role at the end of the game. So, it's not a perfect retelling by any means, but you will understand the main plot thread and see some nice character moments, and that's far more than what the Philosopher's Stone game has provided. Graphics have also seen big improvements, though the way characters are animated when they talk can often be seen as robotic and uncanny. The voice acting is better, and the accompanying musical soundtrack is as amazing as it was in the previous game, but, regrettably, still composed by a rapist, while his workplace abuser friend again was the lead game designer for this version. There are lines that shouldn't be crossed, which is why I find it important to make sure people are informed. As for the game in question, Chamber of Secrets for PC will get a Statocritic rating of 81. It's a great game and quite honestly a classic. It is held back from true greatness by certain mechanical limits, but within the extent of systems found in the game, it does pretty much everything one could hope for. Last video you might have noticed that in 2001 Harry Potter was curiously absent from the PlayStation 2 platform, which was already extremely popular by that time. Well, this game developed by EA UK actually started out as a PlayStation 2 Philosopher's Stone title, but then got transformed into a Chamber of Secrets one. And if you're wondering why there is no mention of GameCube and Xbox versions, it's because they have their own separate entry. The strongest part about the PS2 Chamber of Secrets is the structure around which the experience is built. The PC version was already pretty nice with its separation between lessons, mystery tasks and side activities in the Hogwarts hub, but the PS2 game features some very important atmospheric additions. First, you start the game by preparing for the year to come in Diagon Alley. Then, once you reach Hogwarts, everything is divided into day and night segments. During the night, you sneak around restricted environments while avoiding prefects where necessary and complete plot-related levels, while at day you do lesson challenges and participate in the Quidditch tournament. And it should be noted that both the Quidditch Cup and the House Cup can be lost to Slytherin, which actually adds stakes to the whole system. Last but not least, Hogwarts is entirely explorable across its interiors and the outside grounds, with free-form broom flying and a bunch of optional fetch quest missions and minigames. The atmosphere in this version is fantastic. It's a good thing too, as a big chunk of enjoyment hinges on this atmosphere and the solid foundation it provides, as everything related to the actual gameplay part is quite clunky. You can't rotate the camera, only pan it around. Automatic spell targeting doesn't always work, while the lock-on function is inconsistent. The health of bosses is too big relative to their designs, so you end up doing a lot of the same repetitive actions. Doesn't help that 5 out of 9 bosses in the game are gargoyles with which you play an Expelliarmus tennis match. 3 of these gargoyles are in the same dungeon. Stealth mode camera is also somewhat wonky and detection rules are not entirely clear, though I do appreciate the attempt to incorporate distraction tools. But your best bet is to try and run past everyone using Expelliarmus whenever a prefect tries to capture you. Playing stealth fairly is a surefire way to lose house points. Though there's some cool attention to detail, when you use the Polyjuice potion to disguise yourself as a Slytherin, getting caught by prefects will deduct points from their house instead of Gryffindor. Of course up to a certain limit, so you wouldn't abuse the system by sending Slytherin into House Cup oblivion. While broom flying during races and Quidditch, Harry keeps trying to weirdly reposition himself whenever you stop moving, which gets very annoying. Of course that's acceptable when you explore Hogwarts grounds, but that aspect reveals its own faults. After the initial emotional rush for the amount of freedom winds down, you realize that the place feels sort of dead. There's barely a student in sight, only a small amount of secret chests containing wizard cards, and the side activities here require you to find small objects somewhere on the map, most of the time with barely a hint as to where to look. Oh, and make sure to interact with the person given the fetch quest twice, as the lost item won't appear on the map until the second interaction. Hogwarts interiors share similar issues. Oftentimes you'll find floors empty unless there's someone wanting to trade wizard cards or has a story-related scripted dialogue. The fact that it's enclosed spaces makes it a bit less noticeable, though the exploration still feels pretty lacking. Almost the entire castle is accessible from the get-go, so learning new spells amounts to being able to open various locked chests spread around classrooms. Because of that, exploration even feels a bit undesirable until you get close to the end. But to be fair, at least the process of going through the main missions is enjoyable, even though level design isn't as strong as in the PC version. With the exception of the library restricted section that's pretty elaborate, all levels feel sort of basic due to weird spell distribution and lack of optional secrets. For example, Diffindo is used only in 3 missions. Ivy Force is used in the spell challenge you learn it in and a bit in the Incendio lesson. So you learn all these spells, but levels don't take advantage of your increasing arsenal. Even the Chamber of Secrets, which is a perfect opportunity to create a test of all your abilities, doesn't require a single spell from the game, as the mission is just a boss battle during which you can only use the Sword of Gryffindor. So yeah, if not for the strong atmospheric structure, Chamber of Secrets would have been dangerously close to falling apart. For what it's worth, the game does have some very smart choices in how it adapts the story to fit the needs of the game. For example, instead of being told about the Chamber of Secrets during class, the main trio seeks out a history book in the restricted section of the library. us going alone into the Forbidden Forest is justified by Ron searching for Hermione. Students are discussing you and your snake-talking abilities in the background, which does add to the feeling of getting estranged from them because of these newfound abilities. That said, alongside these smart choices, there are some weird things like Harry pondering if he should be in Slytherin happening even before they learn about the Chamber of Secrets, Lockhart disappearing without a trace in the second half of the game, and this version also has the sudden teleportation of all students from the Diagon Alley bookshop, so Ron and Harry would be late for the train. Despite these hiccups, the plot is still understandable, and the flaws are balanced out by engaging writing that's accompanied by actually good voice work.
What kept you, Harry? I can't hang around here all night, you know. Very funny, Ron. Now how on earth am I going to release you? Is there some kind of weak spot on the tree you could cast a spell at? Whatever you're gonna do, you should do it quickly!
If only the graphical part would be as consistent. The visual design of the game is great, it's just that very regularly you're going to encounter weird camera placement in cutscenes, awkward lip sync, and a distinct lack of animations. Not to mention Neville, who in different situations utilizes 3 different models. His proper one in main missions, some generic student model while on Hogwarts grounds, and… okay, that's got to be another Neville who also happens to have a toad named Trevor. In the end, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for PS2 is going to get a Stasocritic rating of 71. It's a good game with a strong fantasy, undermined by gameplay clunkiness and lack of depth in exploration. Even though this entry is for the GameCube and Xbox platforms, you're still going to see quite a bit of PlayStation 2 footage for the purposes of comparison. This version has actually been developed by a totally different studio, Eurocom, but based on the same set of designs. So there's far many more differences than just graphical ones, although those definitely stand out the most. I'll be honest, this version of Chamber of Secrets is one of the best looking games of 2002, and still quite stunning even if we take into account the whole generation in general. I know why it doesn't get enough attention. The PS2 version was the more popular one, so these sort of go into the same boat in terms of public opinion, but damn! Look at that lighting! It's freaking beautiful! Here's the PlayStation 2 version, by the way. All environments feel so lush and vibrant, and the amount of details is insane. All those portraits in the Great Stairs area, and again the light rays. Books flying around in the restricted section of the library, the leaky cauldron in Diagon Alley, hell, even just the flight stairs in your dormitory. And of course the physics of Harry's robes that wave in a very satisfying manner while running. Just wonderful. In the GameCube Xbox version, the character models are much more detailed and have overall better body and facial animations. In the PlayStation 2 version, the characters are very static, and when talking they can outright look creepy. Not to mention the cutscene cinematography in the GameCube Xbox version is much more interesting, with people actually properly interacting with one another, as opposed to simply standing and talking in the PS2 version with little amount of camera changes. All this is even more impressive considering that this version of the game runs at a stable, smooth 60 FPS. And I know some think that 60 FPS was standard back in those days, but when it came to 3D titles, it really wasn't. The majority of 3D games ran at 30. And look, there are definitely some visual flaws, awkward animations there and there, character eyes don't move, though that is overall well hidden by blinking and how expressive their bodies are. But all that doesn't really matter because the amount of work that has gone into this game is astounding, letting the visual style truly shine. Of course, I did say there are gameplay differences as well, so this entry is not going to be just me gushing about how well Chamber of Secrets looks. First, core gameplay is definitely better than in the PS2 version. Spell targeting is more consistent, you can actually move the camera around, which helps with navigation. The pretty significant downside is that in the GameCube Xbox version you lose beams absolutely every time you get hit. On PlayStation 2, the only enemies that can take beams away from you are the ghosts, and you can scare them away with Lumos, which is not possible in this version. It's also not possible to use Expelliarmus on prefects during stealth sections, and tools are a bit less reliable. If in the PS2 version the noise balloon stays pretty much on the same spot, here it seems to fly in a sort of random direction. However, it's not like stealth on PS2 is actually good anyway, and there are also far less stealth sections on Gamecube Xbox, with less prefects actually patrolling. Broom flying is much more smooth, and you can be far more precise than in the PS2 version, where your broom can behave erratically at times. So even though the bean thing is annoying, overall the gameplay is more enjoyable in this version. And while the challenges are very similar, there's plenty of level design differences. Many of them make gameplay less frustrating. For example, in one of the spell lessons, fire bellows keep following you around in the PS2 version, while here they don't. Though there are some differences that perhaps simplify a couple obstacles a bit too much. The biggest difference is how the Hogwarts grounds are handled. On PS2 you can explore them freely, fly and land anywhere you want. In this version you can't, and essentially fast travel between specific locations. And while you can't freely fly anywhere, you can land only in these specific points. While it is more restrictive this way, I can't say that it's worse, as you avoid seeing how dead and lifeless the grounds can be, and don't have to do a bunch of annoying fetch quests either. And speaking of liveliness, the interiors of this version have many more students roaming around the corridors, which definitely makes the school feel better. Whatever atmospheric damage the lack of freedom on the grounds might have done is balanced out by how much more detailed a lot of cutscenes are. For example, on PS2, when you fly out of Diagon Alley, there is just a cutscene of the car flying away and that's it. In this version, there is a whole dialogue between Ron and Harry, and a lot of cutscenes have extra flair to them like that. While it doesn't fix the underlying story flow issues that are ultimately the same as in the PS2 version, it does make it more fleshed out. The version for GameCube and Xbox does have some pretty frustrating issues, but as a whole I found it to be much more engaging and enjoyable than the PS2 version, though of course that one has its advantages as well. I guess a perfect console Chamber of Secrets game would be a combination of the two, but as it is now, the title for Xbox and GameCube is getting a Stasocritic rating of 80. It's definitely a great game and a classic. The PS1 Chamber of Secrets is a direct continuation of Argonaut's Philosopher's Stone game, and you might remember that I've been lamenting how that one would have been much better had the whole game been like its first half. Once again shown the power of iteration on a ready foundation and have an additional time, this Chamber of Secrets version is precisely just that, while also being at least 2 times longer. Perhaps it doesn't do anything elaborate in terms of gameplay and level design, but the game makes sure you won't be bored thanks to the sheer amount of level variety and actual enjoyable this time minigames it throws at you, even if each of those minigames does lack some amount of depth, especially dueling, which is the most used one. Still, they're fun enough, plus there are far more secrets spread around, and if you've missed any after completing the game, you can still replay various sections through the photo album. In terms of visuals and atmosphere, the game is also much more engaging. Hogwarts actually feels beautiful and not dead, though sadly that doesn't help with some weird things like the still poor character faces and questionable voice acting. Regardless, it can't be underestimated how magical the environments actually feel this time. The story is told in a much more in-depth way than the previous game, and the PS1 version actually manages to take pretty much all events from the source material, a lot of which weren't even present in the movie. Sadly though, the connective tissue between some of those events doesn't make sense. For example, in the book, the purpose of the scene where Lockhart dresses up dwarves as cupids for Valentine's Day is ultimately so Harry would find out that the diary he found takes ink in, and that's why he starts communicating with it through writing. In the game, there's nothing that leads to this realization, Harry just decides to write in it. On the other hand, there are some smart adaptation choices, like transforming searching for Polyjuice potion ingredients into a pretty significant quest chain. And I really like a bunch of other little details, like Dobby being the one charming a bunch of obstacles trying to stop us, or this funny moment with Ron and Lockhart when you're sliding down towards the Chamber of Secrets. Chamber of Secrets for the first PlayStation will get a Stasocritic rating of 72. It's one of those games that is quite simple and unassuming, but it's just fun all the way through. I've 100%ed it with great enjoyment, collected everything I could, and don't regret a single moment spent in it. The Game Boy Advance version of Chamber of Secrets was developed by Eurocom rather than Kryptonite Games. Though it has different gameplay and core mechanics than Philosopher's Stone, it still keeps up with the overall trend of being a total improvement. That being said, while it is a total improvement, it's also an absolutely boring game to discuss. Mind you, not boring to play, it's enjoyable enough I guess, though I think I completed the game only because it's pretty short. It's just there's nothing remarkable about it, things are as basic as it can get. Oh, you first need to move one block onto a button, then you have to move 2 blocks onto 2 buttons. Then you have only one button again, but the block you have can be used to reach a ledge on the way. The game works mostly because despite every challenge encountered being simple and straightforward, there is no situation that you see 2 times, even when it comes to flying minigames where each has a different goal. Chamber of Secrets has very nice visuals and environments and a good soundtrack, but Hogwarts just feels so empty. You won't ever see a single random student anywhere. Even in classes, it's just you, the teacher, and Hermione. I suppose it all adds to the overall disheartening feeling of the game being just alright. So it's getting a Stasocritic rating of 54. It's really not a bad game, but also not a particularly interesting one, though might be worth a try if you're a big Harry Potter fan. Developed by Kryptonite Games, this is a direct continuation of their previous Philosopher's Stone RPG. Like all other Harry Potter sequels, this game took the foundation that was set up and improved pretty much everything. And quite honestly, this is the best Chamber of Secrets adaptation out of all that were released this year. The game throws out everything that didn't quite fit, like the potion crafting aspect, so it could focus on the meat of the game, that being the combat. There is no long drawn-out animations, everything flows nicely. A special screen is added, Follow Brutai, that holds information about every enemy, including their resistances and weaknesses. And you fill their book up by using an Informo spell on the opponents you encounter, which works well with the overall theme of learning something in school. Instead of a purely word-based list, which would make it easy to confuse spells like Vermilius and Verdimilius together, Chamber of Secrets uses icons, making it obvious which spell you are selecting and whether you can actually cast it or not. Each card combination now has a clear description of what its actual effect will be, allowing you to use this strategically without guesswork. And finally, enemy distribution is much more sensible. Not only has Chamber of Secrets fixed every important issue with combat from Philosopher's Stone, it added different party members. Most of the time you will be accompanied by Ron and Hermione, although at some point even Gilderoy Lockhart will be in your party too. Each character has their own special abilities that provide a fantastic blend of gameplay mechanics with context showcasing their personalities. Ron can send his pet rat Scabbers for different purposes, ensure that at the end of the battle you'll win some potions or wizard cards, stun enemies, and so on. His disadvantage is the broken wand that can randomly backfire, being very true to the source material. Hermione has special lecturing moves, which can give offensive or defensive buffs to other party members, as well as increase the overall XP you receive from a battle. And even Lockhart has a special ability of his own to stun enemies by giving them an autograph. The ability to use wizard card combinations stays unique to Harry though. Thanks to the addition of party members, spells like Petrificus Totalus actually have strategic uses against, let's say, bosses. with the sad exception of the final one, as your wand casting is replaced by a sort of Gryffindor instead, which will do 0 damage by the way if you happen to not have enough strength. Luckily, right before the boss battle there is an area where you can grind some levels for a bit should you need them. But it's really disappointing that the end of the game just forgoes the main spellcasting part of the combat system. Sure, you can use wizard card combinations, but still. The combat self-sufficiency from Philosopher's Stone was fixed by making sure that you don't win equipment in random battles, and wizard card and potion rewards are more rare unless you use a special ability. That said, the monetary rewards are too small in comparison to the prices of equipment in Weasley's shop. As a result, it is very difficult to actually buy something in your first playthrough. Chamber of Secrets, like its predecessor, does have a New Game Plus possibility, which would make it easier to buy gear in the second run, but honestly, often it's better to just spend money on wizard cards to be able to use card combinations. Regardless, even with the economy balance problems in mind, Chamber of Secrets does a better job at making every facet of the game more meaningful. And though it is tricky to gain enough money to purchase equipment, you still get some gear through optional quests. Which leads us to the pacing of the adventure. Chamber of Secrets provides a much healthier mix of minigames, fetch quests, and dungeon roaming than its predecessor. There's a couple more proper side activities now other than just collecting wizard cards. You have the dueling club, a whole trading sequence, and a few side quests. Maybe not a lot, but it's enough to spruce up the gameplay, and you won't get lost thanks to Hogwarts now having a map. Likewise with minigames, they're pretty simple. There's gnome throwing, quidditch, flying in a car, ghost head bowling, but they're done very well and are pretty fun for a distraction. While dungeons or dungeon-like environments are just rudimentary labyrinths with random enemies and a boss at the end, they're not very big and work well enough to facilitate combat. Story-wise, the game has a proper setup, progression, every plot point is introduced when necessary and reaches its proper conclusion, no character just appears or disappears out of nowhere, everything makes sense. Which is not to say that absolutely every relevant element from the book, which is the main source of this game's inspiration rather than the movie, is present. For example, the themes of belonging and choice are never really explored. Sure, people have their suspicions about Harry, but he's never really ostracized for being able to talk to snakes and always getting caught near the place where someone would get petrified. The dialogue with the sorting hat where Harry wonders if he was sorted into the right house or not is simply absent as well. But that being said, whichever points sadly didn't make it into the story don't actively hurt the game. You never get the feeling that something is missing, so should you go into the title with literally zero knowledge about Chamber of Secrets, you will be absolutely fine. In fact, I would even say the game is more enjoyable than the source material when it comes to dialogue writing. For example, this is the moment where Hermione first meets Harry and Ron. This amazing traffic violation line is not in the source material. When Nick the Ghost asks Harry to tell Sir Patrick how frightening Nick is, this is what the exchange in the book amounts to. "I think," said Harry hurriedly at a meaningful look from Nick, "Nick's very frightening and, Ha!" yelled Sir Patrick's head. "Bet he asked you to say that." That's it. Now take a look at the same moment from the game. It has so much more life to it. And honestly, like in the Chamber of Secrets movie, the friendship between the three main characters is felt here more so than in the book they're based on, which is definitely a plus as far as I'm concerned. There are plenty of moments that never happened in the book because the game needed reasons for there to be additional gameplay sections included, and most of the time they fit very well. They don't get transformed into huge unnecessary side plots, but rather work as extensions of existing goals. Some cute references to the previous game are present too, which makes it feel like a proper sequel to the first game rather than just a separate adaptation of the source material, which is a sequel. And as a cherry on top, there are tons of side conversations with students in the world. While Philosopher's Stone also has this aspect, Chamber of Secrets really doubles down on it. After every completed main goal, the students at Hogwarts will have something different to say related to your next mission. It's great! And all this happens in what's got to be one of the best looking and best sounding Game Boy Color games out there. Philosopher's Stone was already pretty impressive, but it had some issues in terms of musical repetitiveness, Hogwarts floors looking the same, slow animations, stuff like that. But Chamber of Secrets not only fixes all that, it just goes all out, even managing to put more battle screen backgrounds and the likes than Philosopher's Stone did. Just an insane amount of details. And the animation work is as fantastic as it was before, now with the added bonus of it not slowing down gameplay. The wizard card combination animations also feel much more epic in nature. If there is a sort of caveat I can mention, it's that a lot of battle music doesn't really sound Harry Potter-ish, more like Final Fantasy if anything. But really, it's only a minor gripe against what is one of the best looking and sounding GBC games ever. And while I am personally not a huge fan of the art style myself, I find it very fitting to the tone of the source material, and it's implemented in a high-quality way, so can't complain there. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets gets a Stasocritic rating of 87. I'd say the title is really underappreciated. It has fun and polished combat, and while the aspects surrounding it could see a lot of nice additions and improvements, they're done well enough to facilitate that combat. A lot of mechanics are inspired by the source material, and the story told is enjoyable. It's a great game that deserves more recognition. The sequel by Cube Software is sadly the only one in the list that not only didn't improve anything, it made things worse. Much worse. The game tried to add some semblance of structure by tying unlocking of areas to lessons and availability of lessons to the Chocolate Frog collection, and also unlocking new models to put in the world by collecting treasure chests, which in turn has transformed building into a side mode, while the main gameplay became collecting things around the environment, while walking very slowly, with a horrible camera that is even worse than in the previous game. And the helper yelling "a frog" whenever the mouse cursor passes over one, and there's a lot of frogs here.
A frog! A frog! A frog!
The game is literally broken too, new areas never seem to unlock. I give some benefit of the doubt that it's modern PCs messing something up, because in the only detailed review of this game from 2002 that I found, the author seems to have progressed beyond the starting areas, while I couldn't and also didn't find any modern footage of anyone doing so. But still, sadly, I have to assign a Stasocritic rating of 11. This is one Harry Potter game you should definitely avoid. 2002 was the great year for Harry Potter games. Outside of one sad exception, that being the LEGO Creator sequel, there have been no bad Chamber of Secrets games. The worst one is just alright, but still enjoyable enough. 3 of the versions are definitely true classics that perhaps aren't remembered as often as they should, especially the Game Boy Color version, which is just wonderful and I would say quite underrated. With the franchise finding its true footing, surely the games can only get better from there. We shall find out in the next video.
Chocolate. Marmalade. Curry. Yuck! Grass flavour. Liver. Curry.